Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Yesterday, but going back to the Ashcroft thing, because it ties into the Second Amendment.
It does indeed.
Kennedy attacked him on the Second Amendment because, of course, Ashcroft is pro-Second Amendment, pro-Constitution Bill of Rights, and he said, how dare you say that these guns are here to defend us from tyranny and government? Well, it turned out that Ashcroft's actual quote was basically paraphrasing Thomas Jefferson, so how dare Kennedy? Any comments on that?
You know, I have to say, much as I admired his big brother, I think Teddy Kennedy is one of the worst members of the U.S. Senate. I really feel that. And he shoots his mouth off, and he has the right to do so. He's a U.S. Senator, but he is not a good one.
Well, I think they show their hatred for the Second Amendment. You talk about a culture war a lot in your newest book, and of course in your eloquent speeches. I almost fell over when I saw you on one of the NRA news shows when you said, "You can take it from my cold dead hand." You raised up that musket.
The old musket, yeah. Yeah, that worked out very well. But I think, you know, I can give you any number of examples. For example, do you know the largest and fastest growing group of purchasers of small handguns in the country? Single women, of course. They're women with permanently absent husbands who have 2 or 3 kids they're trying to support. They want to spend some time with them, so that means they have to be there when they're home from school, which means they have to work, make a living, because their husband's long gone, by cleaning office buildings till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then they ride the bus within 3 or 4 blocks of where they live. But then they got to walk those last blocks in the dark, all by themselves. So of course they want a small pistol in their purse.
And how dare this corrupt government, those running it, especially the Democrats, tell women they don't have that right? I'm sure you've heard that the Solicitor General has said that the Second Amendment, Mr. Heston, does not extend to individuals.
Yeah, I've read that, but of course that's not true. Every one of the founding fathers, those wise old dead white guys that invented the country, every one of them is elaborately on record at the time about the importance of the Second Amendment and the meaning of the Second Amendment. It is simply impossible to deny that. And the efforts of the anti-gun mob are just specious.
You're talking about the Federalist Papers documenting the true intent.
Yes, of course. And the Bill of Rights itself, and the Federalist Papers. But also, while they were drafting the Bill of Rights, they wrote, every one of them wrote papers on this, as you said, one of the Federalist Papers.
Mr. Heston, I know you're incredibly busy. We've got a real short 3-minute break right here. If you can stay with us, I want to...
Sure, I'm here. I'm fine.
Fantastic. I want to tell folks how to get the courage to be free. And if every one of you out there doesn't get in the fight like Mr. Heston has done for the Second Amendment, we're going to lose it. And, well, we know who was for gun control, Hitler, Stalin, Mao, you name it. I want to bring up that historical fact to Mr. Heston that has lived over quite a few decades of watching tyrants globally. We'll be right back. This is Genesis and the Liberty Works Radio Network. Stay with us.
The Genesis Communications Radio Network proudly presents The Alex Jones Show, because there's a war on for your mind.
All right, we're back live, ladies and gentlemen. And one of our talk show hosts, Dave Unclice, just called in and said that he'd be happy to donate his song, and it's awesome. You can take it from my cold, dead hands. Probably have to send Mr. Heston a copy of that. We're talking to Charlton Heston, his new book, The Courage to Be Free. And right now I'm going to tell you how to get it, ladies and gentlemen. You really need to order this book. You need to, after you're done reading it, pass it on to friends. It's a toll-free number to call. It's 800-697-8844. That's 800-697-8844. 8844, or go to the website. It's one word, CourageToBeFree.com. Now going back to Mr. Heston, who really needs no introduction. Tyranny. I mean, isn't that one of the strongest arguments against gun control and restricting law?
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you asked me that question, because if we consider that our revolution was the first and most significant close to a democratic government since the founding of the Roman Republic, then following our revolution, successful, was the French Revolution, which quickly collapsed into the Bloody Terror, followed by the dictatorship of Napoleon, followed in due time by the dictatorships of Hitler and Mussolini and Stalin. And mind you, two of those men, both Hitler and Mussolini, were elected by democratic procedure. And then we get to Pol Pot and Laurent Kabila, who was killed just the day before yesterday, I believe. I think God will not miss him. And Mao Zedong, and of course Fidel Castro. And every one of these monsters, and I think it's fair to call them that, every one of them, their first act on taking office, including the two that were elected democratically, their first thing they did was to confiscate all privately held firearms. The defense rests.
Absolutely, Mr. Heston. Again, Charlton Heston, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, I've looked at the actual numbers, and accountants and others have, and the states with the highest taxes have the most egregious gun control. I don't think that's an accident.
No, I don't think so either. It's the firm intent of the liberal left, no question.
Well, how can they even get away with the term liberal, meaning they're into freedom? I see the so-called liberal left militarizing the police, building prisons everywhere, and going after good people's guns.
Well, of course, originally, the idea of being a liberal meant a certain concern for the rights of the individual. Now it doesn't mean anything like that. Now it means the rights of the government. And we have to constantly stand against that.
Well, the left has really had a problem coming after you, because on the subject of, the God-given rights of black people in this country, you were right out there at the forefront fighting. When there were real environmental problems, you were out there at the forefront fighting. And now they're like, what is Heston doing? He's out there fighting for the Second Amendment. How dare him? I actually saw some guys on one of the big classic movie shows bad-mouthing you before they aired Soylent Green, which is one of my favorites.
There you go. But I have to tell you, on the other day, on Martin Luther King Day, I was invited by CORE to attend their banquet, and I was the principal speaker, and they gave me a bust of Dr. King, which, having spent as much time as I was able to do with him, I'm very proud to have.
So it's really hard for them to attack your record. I mean, this really is another human right to be able to defend ourselves.
Absolutely. It is certainly among the first of human rights.
Again, folks, the book, The Courage to Be Free, the website, thecouragetobefree.com. That's one word, thecouragetobefree.com. When we come back in the next segment, Mr. Heston would have left us, but I'll give you the number again to get the book, and I'd imagine it's in all the major bookstores, or should be. Last question, where do you see the fight in the next 2 years? I think it's critical if the socialists, known as the Democrats, win control of the House and the Senate. We could even in 4 years have the first gentleman bill back in the White House with Hillary as the president.
No, we couldn't get Mr. Clinton back. That would be against the Constitution.
Yeah, 22nd Amendment, but he'll still be back in the White House as the first gentleman. See the joke?
Yeah. Do you think Mrs. Clinton can be elected? I don't think so.
I'm not sure.
Well, we're going to have to work on that, aren't we?
Well, we certainly are.
Yeah.
In fact, I have to tell you, Mr. Heston, I'm glad to see the NRA getting more hardcore.
Yeah, we've got to do it. It's too important. We've tried to keep out of that fight, but I think this last election proved that it was important to stay with it. Every American should vote.
I've seen one of your news shows on where you admit the UN and others are involved actively internationally to get our guns.
Yeah? Oh, yes, indeed. Absolutely.
Well, Mr. Heston, God bless you for joining us, and I appreciate your long fight for people's rights, and I know you will continue, and best of luck.
And thank you for loaning me your audience. It's been a pleasure and a privilege.
God bless you, sir.
And you.
We'll be right back.